here at Denwerks Garage visiting Jason Anderson, who sells classic cars online. He finds some of the most amazing vehicles, and we're going to go inside and find out what's going on. I want to thank you, Jason, for letting me come down and talk to you and see what Denwerks Garage is all about. How did cars enter your life just starting out, or just a little kid?
Yeah, that's a good question because none of my family is really into cars in general. I mean, they like them. Everyone's kind of point A to point B type things. But I remember going out to a junkyard with my grandpa, and this is where I first became a collector. So I'm out there with my grandpa looking at these old cars. This was back in the, probably mid 70s, late 70s. And I came up to my grandpa later and said, Grandpa, check this out. And I had like 50 keys in my hand. And he's like, where'd you get all those? Out here in the junkyard, in the trunks. And I took them out of the trunk. He goes, you know why those are they leave them in the locked, right? Because when someone buys a trunk, now they have the key. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
And then, fast forward to your first car when you're getting your license and you're driving, and it's like, a lot of people, getting a car is a big deal. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily get your ability to pick something, you just get something. But what was your first car?
My parents had a 72 Ranchero that sat on the side of the house. I thought I was going to get an MG. For Christmas, I had this pipe dream. My parents were going to buy me an MG, right? A little midget or MGB. And so, lo and behold, the 72 Ranchero sitting on the house is my car with the wood paneling on it. But he went to the junkyard and he found a GT hood. We put a GT hood on it. He came back with appliance mags, the wheels. We bought some Grand Am tires, had those done. I ended up converting the whole interior from green to black. I went to
so
an
he
upholstery shop.
recognized you were a car guy, even though their family wasn't. He recognized the importance.
I think by the time I was, probably 19, I probably had, 30 cars or so. The hunt is really fun. It's a good time. And I like getting to know the people I'm buying the car from. The story, the history.
Because the story's in the car visually, you can see it, but then you're getting the actual story.
And part of that is, the sales values, let's be honest, the sales value about telling the history of the car and getting the documentation, that helps a lot. But I try to document that story because once I buy that car from you and I don't tell that story's gone. I had got married in '94, met my wife, who we've been married for 25 years, have 4 kids. I was dabbling cars and stuff. I worked at a big, huge car lot, doing finance and sales manager stuff. It just wasn't for me. Nothing against that business. I mean, that's the business I'm in. But I just wanted to do something, myself and things. And so my wife's like a major driving force of why I do things. I think I called her or something like that. We were talking on the phone one day when I'm at work, and I was just kind of burnt out on the whole thing. And she goes, just pack your stuff up and go home. And I go, well, why am I supposed to do that? I mean, how do I do that? We got a kid on the way, and we've already had 2 kids. And she goes, you've been fooling around with these cars? You got a couple Fairlanes, just come home and we'll do what we're doing. And so I was like, wow, this is crazy. To have your wife behind you on a bunch of cars is amazing. So I did. I quit that night and woke up the next morning, and I talk about this all the time, busy every second. So anyways, I started taking photos of the cars, showing people what they want to know about the car. A lot of experience with eBay, Craigslist. And then one thing that has really changed now with me is these videos, right? We have all these videos on YouTube, and I thought that was going to be the death of the car salesman, right? I'm a car salesman, Now I'm going to walk around my car and beat it up some more. I've already taken pictures of all the bad stuff, and now I'm going to beat a dead horse and say, hey, there's a dent here and dent there and a scratch. Here's something you can't see in a photo. I can't get a photo of it and take a video. And so that's changed a lot, the videos. And it's actually increased business
Well, because it just
general.
gives you credibility.
Yeah,
And it shows as the old car dealers that, would hide stuff and make stuff look as good as possible that isn't as good.
Right.
You're showing exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And that's invaluable.
Yeah, I've told people that I'm talking to them on the phone, they're asking me questions about it, in general. And I said, listen, eventually the car's going to show up on your front doorstep, right? I want you to know what it is. I'm in this for the long haul. I'm not just planning on selling one car, right? I want to do this for a long time. And I said, it's my passion. This is what I like. It's my, hobby at the same time as selling. So that I think it's important. When I first started out, I'm just cleaning it up and selling it. Now, every car that I'm pretty much buying, I'm buying tires, date codes. We're looking at date codes, because that's important to people. I think it's kind of funny because the buyers now are a little different. They're looking for cars they actually can drive. You can have a car, that looks really pretty, but if you can't drive it, the suspension's all wore out, or the shocks, or the brakes. So we're doing a ton of stuff like that. I mean, every car I want to keep. I never really buy a car that I don't like. For me, it's not we're making a living doing it, but it's not like I'm going to go buy a bunch of cars just to make a living. I have to like it. Right. And I never, friends of mine say, how come you just don't buy that thing and then put it for sale tomorrow? And I said, I don't know. I want to do all the stuff that, a guy, it takes him 2 years to do, right? I'm going to do it in a month. I want to put the brakes on, I want to put the shoes on, I want to polish it, I want to get to know it, I want to drive it, be able to tell people about it. I want to learn the history about the car before I sell it. So, this is the shop and all of our cars. We probably half this inventory floats out of, here a month. We do sell a lot of cars overseas, a ton of cars like this Dynamic 88. Hey, if you got a car that you want to sell or something like that, and you think like me, you don't mind talking about it, telling the truth, the good and the bad, then I'll help you. Model Ts, a lot of people say are dead. Part of the problem is people don't know how to drive them. So I've taught a lot of people to drive these cars, but I've had a few Model Ts recently, and there's a lot of youth. I don't know what youth is now, but the guy that bought this, 26 years old, lives in LA. He goes, you know what? You can't buy a lot of car for 10 grand. This has got a cool story. It's pretty beat up, but the guy that bought it new in 1985, he took a 2-year trip down to Africa. So he went all the way from the UK down to Africa, and it's got receipts this thick. But this is the original paint, and so if you look here, I have another door that shows the top part of Africa and the UK and stuff. This is his trip, this black line, all the way through Africa. So even though it's not the most perfect Land Rover, for me it's perfect because it tells a story, the history of this thing. A lot of Land Rover owners can't tell a story about where this thing has been, so very, very neat. This was a total fishing rig, and if you saw a picture of it, the way it looked when I got it, it looked completely different. Super faded out, 16.5-inch wheels, the original ones. So we put new wheels and tires on it, Rancho shocks. I actually put a winch on it. But this is our 200th auction on Bring a Trailer. And this is kind of, what we're trying to go to usable rigs, utilitarian stuff that you can enjoy. I don't mind taking my wife out in this. We can go anywhere in it. And, a lot of people will be like, that's a cool rig, even though it's not technically a classic car. I think classic car now is very, very broad, but very neat rig for sure. And it's funny because Stanley, my English Bulldog, this was already on there, so I had to buy it, right?
Well, Jason, I want to thank you for showing me a little window into your world today. It was super fascinating looking at these things. The pictures are great, but it's neat seeing them in person too.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing is splendid and a service to the car community as a whole. So keep up the good work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming down. It was really enjoyable.